welcome. Now, please do check out the YouTube channel. There are over 300 videos for you to consume, and we are still going great guns with now over 220 episodes. Who knew that would even be a thing? So, this is an incredible episode because I have a question for you. What happens when your teenage son becomes one of the brightest stars in English football? How do you stay grounded as a parent as the world watches and the pride and the pressure builds? So this is an incredible episode of the Leadership Enigma. I'm going to be joined by Marcia Lewis, who's the proud mum of Arsenal and England wonder kid Myles Lewis-Skelly, and the incredible force behind the #1 fan club, a fast-growing community supporting families navigating the football minefield. And trust me, I've had some personal experience of that particular minefield. We're about to go beyond the headlines and into the heart of what it means to really be a proud parent, determined to guide, protect, love, and navigate the whirlwind of elite sport, one goal at a time. See what I did there, Marcia? So whether you're a parent, leader, fan, or just someone who loves a good story, trust me, you don't want to miss this particular episode. I'll see you after the break. Hi, I'm Adam Pacifico, and welcome to the Leadership Enigma, a world-ranked, award-winning podcast that's insatiably curious as regards what leaders do, how they do it, and importantly, why. We'll delve into the human doing, but even deeper into the human being and the power of human-centered leadership to drive sustainable change. So whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, corporate executive, each week we speak to global experts, academics, rising stars, ambitious upstarts and disruptors, as together we will discover that success leaves clues. Marcia, thank you so much for coming into the studio. How are you?
Thanks, Adam. No, I'm good. I'm really good, thanks. Yeah.
So I said to you, you must have done many of these and give us some feedback. How's the studio doing for you?
It's very impressive. I love it. It's like being in a nightclub.
Did you hear that, James? We got a bit of a nightclub thing. James is thumbs up. We got a bit of a...
I'm waiting for the disco ball to appear somewhere.
Well, maybe that is something that we really need in here. Actually, there you go. I think that's good objective feedback. We need a disco ball. Look, I've been really, really excited to have you come into the studio, and I'm really grateful for you taking the time to come in and have this conversation. So much to talk about. And as a proud mum of Myles, there's so much to talk about on a human level, not really on a football level, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And so, tell me, as a mum, when did you start to think we may have something on our hands here that is going to need navigating and really thinking about? By kind of what age did you think, oh, I wonder if this passion or hobby might turn into something full time?
I think, okay, so maybe 14.
14?
14, yeah. I mean, things were sort of coming our way much earlier, but it was like, no, that's ridiculous. Just
tell me what was happening, because it can be strange, can't it, at a young age?
It is. I mean, for me, Myles was about 11 at the time when like an agent first called.
Yeah.
But it seemed natural not to engage. Like, come on, kid's 11. And also, I didn't know much about football, so yeah, it was like, although he'd been playing for a number of years, it was like, well, he's just enjoying.
When did he go to the academy first?
He was at pre-academy first, from about 6, but he joined Arsenal under 9s.
Right, okay, which is the year my son signed to an academy. So 9 was...
Yeah, under 9s is like the year where you start that commitment to a club.
And as a parent, that feels odd, doesn't it? So young?
No, not if you're just thinking it's like...
like a club.
It's like a club. I used to describe it as a posh youth club because... You know, it's free. Yeah.
Great facilities.
Great facilities, and your child is enjoying it. Look, if they're not enjoying it, then that's something else.
Yeah.
But it was never any question. It was like, yeah, great, go enjoy. You know, lovely atmosphere, nice people.
Yeah. So
making friends.
By about 11 or 12, certain things start to happen or change.
Yeah, for us, but not for him.
No.
You know, he just sort of carried on doing what he
playing football, right?
Playing football, yeah. But those were individual incidents that we didn't need to engage in. So then it was like, okay, fine, you know, swipe on that and carry on.
Yeah.
But, you know, slowly you would see that other things would, you know.
And did things start to change, you think, about 14?
Yeah, because, you know, decisions had to be made around whether he carries on, you know, in that club, looking like 2 years ahead at that time. But again, it was actually quite easy just to allow sort of the everyday football to take its course. But for me, I was like, okay, I need to sort of understand, a bit more of what's going on here and why is there so much interest externally.
Yes.
And, we can't make these decisions without really understanding the landscape of football. So that's when I kind of needed to sort of dig in a bit more and find out why is everyone so obsessed with football. I
was going to say, how much did you like football at the time?
No.
My wife hates football.
No, seriously. It just wasn't a thing. I mean, my family my dad's from the Caribbean, and his sport was always cricket.
Right.
Come from a family of all girls.
Okay.
No, Myles was the first one to ever, kick a ball. So.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating, isn't it? That you've kind of gone from cricket to football.
Yeah.
And so then at what point for you did you start to think, I need to, maybe not even like football, but I need to start to understand the mechanics of football? What point did you think, hang on, I've got to do something different here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably before COVID.
Right.
And, it started off by reaching out to other parents. I was connected to other parents who weren't in my circle at all, just through, various ways. And it was being able to talk to other people that I thought, actually, this it doesn't feel so alone anymore, being able to sort of explore what happens at this stage, what happens at this phase. And then it was like, okay, well, the business of football is starting to creep in. So how can I just understand it even more? So, that's when I sort of decided to study. I did a master's in football business just because I could.
Well, you were working in the corporate world, weren't you? At this point?
For 20 odd years, I've been working in the corporate world.
So you had to almost have a career change yourself, or a mindset change, to now study.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't studied since my degree, and that was like...
I don't think I could do it anymore. So I take my hat off to you. I don't think I could do it.
No, I mean, for me, it was a massive decision. And I wanted to go beyond just sort of the normal understanding the game. I didn't need to understand, what an offside rule is. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to get into the weeds of, what makes it such a... from a consumer perspective, from a football, operations perspective,
right.
Like there's a lot of money in football. Why is that?
The business of football.
Why is it so that from the business perspective, people are so kind of, they want to get into it? Like, what is it? What makes it tick? And also for if Myles is going to navigate this world, I want to understand what he's going to have to deal with on the, off the field as well.
There's an element here of curiosity and also interest of, hang on, how do I help my son at a very tender age? Let's be honest, a lot of the kids going through the academies are very tender age. Yeah. Curiosity and how do I help a child navigate this?
Yes, yeah. But I think for what happened actually doing the course, I mean, I learned a lot, some of it not necessarily relevant to our everyday life, but I did a study. I had to do a thesis at the end, and I chose to do it on the parent experience in youth academies, and that was looking at parents who've gone through the experience where their kids are between 15 and 21.
Right.
That was the game changer for me because it was a qualitative study. I interviewed about 18 families. Right. Of different backgrounds,
different clubs.
Oh yeah, they were I kind of sort of stayed away from one club,
right? Yeah.
But from all different clubs, mostly in and around London. Yep. So real diverse group of
various categories as well.
Various
from Cat
categories.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, absolutely. But it was an eye opener because it showed that parents were struggling with various things, and not just the business of football, but being in the system. Knowing like who to trust, who to talk to, lack of information, limited resources, things they needed to know you couldn't Google, people weren't telling them sort of things, or just themselves, like a fear of not getting it right, but yet not knowing how.
Right.
So that was kind of a game changer. Like, wow, it was like talking therapy. A lot of the parents would say that like we've never really reflected on this journey in this way, and they might do things differently if they were to do it again, or they wish they'd had this sort of information. And I was like, wow, I felt, I was definitely, a lot of what they said was starting to resonate with me. And we were all going through, similar and different challenges. And I was like, well, where do we go for help? And that's when I decided, okay, this is maybe something which I could support in some way.
And having had a son myself who went through the academy system for 3 or 4 years, there wasn't really anywhere to turn, was there? And was there a discrepancy or difference between what you were learning about the business of football and the reality that you were experiencing about the business of football? Was there a disconnect in any way, or did you start to connect the dots with the learning and the experience?
Yeah, well, there is a disconnect. The experience is very different to what I've learned.
Yeah.
Sure, you don't. As a parent going through this, it's hard because, for example, I work with a lovely lady called Kate Yorpenda, who also has sons in football. And we talk every day about the experience. And it's like no one else really gets it when they're not in it.
Yeah.
You make decisions sometimes that you just wouldn't make. For example, in a school, if you weren't happy with something, you'd go in and you'd have a word with the teacher. But, in the football setting, you're almost like,
there's very clearly you're the silent supporter on the sideline.
Yes.
Don't get involved in
And to be fair, if we're talking about academies, and by the way, when we talk about number one fan, it's not just about the academy system, but it's there's an inconsistency in the system, and you'll get some clubs where absolutely it's an open door, and they would, they welcome those conversations. And then others, it feels like the them and us.
Yeah.
That's hopefully not their intention, but that's how it can feel. And when you're navigating something that's totally alien to you, you actually don't always know how to behave. So, you often get we get labelled as the like overbearing parents or the nightmare parents, that sort of thing. But actually, what's behind that? And I think there is sometimes just a fear, a lack of information, that anxiety of not knowing create. I mean, you're all about human behaviour. It creates that sort of tension.
Well, 2 and 2 then equals 5, doesn't it? Because you don't have anything to anchor on, or just no guidance, or no support around it.
Right.
I mean, there are huge positives to, and I know we're going to come on to number one club because I know you're helping parents really navigate all of it, and we'll talk about grassroots football because that's so important, and that's the mainstream. There are some huge benefits of having a boy or a girl in an academy, which was the diversity of the friendships, the experience, the resources, all of those things. But then there was also an element of pressure at a young age, and we were just talking before we started about that sign or release phase. So even at a young age, they were having to wait and see whether they would continue the next year or whether they wouldn't. And the experience that I went through as a parent was watching a son be quite upset at friends who he was very close to being released and not seeing them again. And I thought that's quite a lot for a 9, 10 and 11-year-old. And what was your experience of just that going on around you? Because you have you build up friendships.
Yeah, do you know? Well, from a parent perspective, if I'm absolutely honest, I mean, I was always working. So when I would go to the academy, I didn't know a lot of parents very well. Because I'd go, I wasn't always watching training. You got Sainsbury's around the corner. I'm going to, you know what I mean? I was busy myself.
And I know that ground very well. We've been there a few times.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't. But for Myles, it would be a sad time when friends would leave. But for that period when it always came around for him.
Yes.
I honestly don't. Maybe because he felt quite confident in just being there and having fun. There was no pressure on that conversation.
Yes.
So personally for him, I don't think he saw it as, okay, am I going to stay? Am I going to go?
But it was the friends piece that was real.
The friends piece, I think that was the reality, and the thing is when they do leave, it's not easy to stay in touch with a lot of the kids because there is that, there's, the boys and girls that leave, there's the, for them, they feel it's an embarrassment that they're not there anymore or they may not get into another club. So it can be difficult to maintain those friendships actually when they go. And I think that's a real shame.
It was, and when you say that really resonates because I think about the tightness between, we had an amazing group of parents And then when they would leave, you're right, it was very difficult, nigh on impossible to maintain that connection because people wanted to go and do something different or find another route. Yeah. Which really takes me on to Number One Fan Club, which I just think is an incredible thing. Just tell us a little bit about what is Number One Fan Club. How did you create that? I know co-created it. What's it doing?
So it's all about providing a community for parents in navigating football. We talk about football, but actually, it could be, I don't know, any sport or drama or entertainment or whatever, in an environment where you really, as a parent, you kind of can get caught up in this area that you might know nothing about. So it's all about supporting parents to navigate the industry. We're not talking about, how to do the best kick-ups or quote turns or whatever.
The technical side someone else will deal with, right?
That. There's loads of, platforms to show you.
But if you could help me with the kick-up,
But it is about building a community of support and peer-to-peer learning, actually, and education. So it's bringing together professionals in the industry, whether it's wellbeing, child psychology, coaching or whatever, and also other parents giving their experiences to help others along the way.
Yeah.
Because there are things we just don't know in this environment. So it's bringing the knowledge base of lots of people, the experiences, building a community. So we run workshops open to the public. We run them in academies as well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of this online.
Yeah. We have events, so we're bringing people together in rooms. They can again bounce ideas and listen to others. So it's kind of a bit of a movement. Actually.
Well, this is getting huge momentum, isn't it? What do you think's behind that, or is it what's behind that? Is it there was a real need for it?
There's a real need, yeah. I mean, everyone always says, "Oh my goodness, yeah." Why hasn't anyone done this before? It's like, because it's hard. It's actually quite difficult to penetrate the industry because it is quite a them and us. And whilst everyone knows it's important that parents understand more, everybody knows that. But then there's a part of the industry that doesn't want parents to know too much. So, but largely the support has been amazing from other people in the industry, from other parents. It's taken a while, but now it's like, of course this is important. We want our kids, whether or not they go on to have a professional career or not, we want them to enjoy a sport, keep healthy, have good friendships, and take the skills that they can from this journey and apply it to other things in life. So, we don't want to, that's kind of the essence of it.
And let's talk a little bit about the journey, because the journey is long and onerous, and you're experiencing things for the first time, aren't you, in relation to what Myles is now doing and experiencing himself. But let's go back to grassroots, because grassroots football is something that we've maybe all been involved in, or all had children involved in, boys and girls. And do we know statistically the kind of numbers involved in grassroots football? Do you?
Yeah,
because it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller as we go, doesn't it? So
I mean, I'd like to say something like 3.5 million, and we kind of toy with it. It's in the millions, right? There's a lot of kids, and I think what is the government has had an amazing initiative to keep our youth active and get them involved in football. Unfortunately, though, the moment our kids get involved in football, it's all about the competitive nature of it. There's many kids who would love to play, but the moment they join a team, it's all about getting up the leagues and winning. So there's something that's got to be done, I think, in grassroots to keep all kids enjoying it, where it's not just about winning, or obviously that's a business. Grassroots is a business.
Every club has to be sustainable in their own right.
Sustainable, yeah. So already we're missing out, a proportion of society because it costs a lot of money to join a club.
Yes.
It's not cheap. But for me, I think some of the challenges exist there where, a lot of kids want to be professional footballers, right?
Well, we see it all over the TV and the press, don't we? So role modelling is a big piece, for kids.
Yes.
Impressionable kids.
Yes, yeah. But I think there needs to be a lot of learning at that point for parents
Yes.
as to what that journey looks like, because everyone wants to quickly sign and get into the, you know, the academy when they've been scouted and whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, what does that look like, and how, you know, how as a parent you're going to support it before you jump in?
Yes.
Like, understand
Yeah.
what it could look
Be
like.
careful what you wish for, I used to
Be careful
say.
what you wish for. Yeah.
What's the reality though? Statistically, I mean, there's been some incredible documentaries on academy life and after academy life, and some of the stories are quite brutal.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the kind of the numbers that, you know, there's millions of kids playing grassroots football? That's great. And then how many go into an academy? And then I think I saw something that's like less than 1% from an academy who might see a first team football. Have I got that right, or is it something
do you
like
know what?
that?
I mean, I don't particularly like that statistic because it's not very accurate. And,
Right.
and I think, you know, when it talks about that, it often talks about the highest level
Yes.
as opposed to, you know, there are kids playing, you know, in all different leagues overseas. So it doesn't really account for that. However, the number is very low in terms of turning professional. That is for certain. So there's obviously a massive amount of kids going in, and the funnel just gets smaller. So the chances are very...
That's life though, isn't it? And that's
is
every
life.
profession, has that funnel.
Exactly.
Right.
So we need to, I think, be able to demonstrate, also almost visually, I think, to families and kids, because we hear the number, but actually, what does that, you know, if you were going into an organisation and you've got someone that's an MD and below them you've got, you know, 30 people that are VPs.
Well, not everyone's going to be the CEO, right?
Going to be the CEO. So it can be quite difficult. So I think there's probably not enough done just to show that landscape in a more visual way, I think. But yeah, the numbers are very small, and I think it's what we're trying to do with Number One Fan is really help families articulate the opportunities beyond football, the skills, the development of you know, being in the sport, making new friends. Sometimes it's travel, the discipline, you know, the disappointment, all those things can be, you know, should be turned into other things along the way. Yeah. Rather than just think, I'm in it to get to that end goal. We need our kids to enjoy the journey and the experiences, and then turn it into all that they've learned into other areas of life.
And do you find that you're supporting the majority at grassroots level? Because as you say, it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So yes, you'll be helping families and parents whose children have made it to the elite, but that's going to be a small number compared to the majority at this end. So do you find that Number One Fan Club is dedicated or spending most of its time talking to people who are at the early stages of just enjoying football or anything?
Well, it's probably the other way at the moment, because we're also, when you're in the system, and there are lots of kids in the system, it's around, you know, what can we do to just focus on the here and now? Like, how do you communicate with your you know, academy coaches? What's the, you know, how do you be in this and be present, as opposed to the grassroots element? We're definitely, you know, that's where we need to focus, and we're just getting the awareness piece out now. So we run workshops for parents in grassroots, and, you know, really helping them to understand, you know, the other benefits, but also the challenges of being in this environment.
So you're now really embedded into football, because as a parent, undoubtedly that has to happen. So what are you hoping aspirationally that Number One Fan Club can start to achieve over the coming years within this arena at those levels? It's a bit of a compounded question, so forgive me, right?
Do you know what? I think it's, thank you, just a greater awareness of the football ecosystem.
Right.
So that when your kids are in it, you've got all the resources you need to support them at every stage that they're needed. So we don't want to wait till a child is 16, 18 and falling out of football because their dream hasn't realised and everything's a train crash. We want them to feel empowered that actually we've had an amazing opportunity, and I'm going to turn that into something now. We want to support that from as early as possible. The messaging for young people. So we're not crushing any dreams about not becoming a professional footballer.
But the reality
of what that takes, what it is. But enjoy the moment, like your only young ones. Like grassroots they're just, I remember Mars and grassroots. They're really happy days, right? So be careful what you wish for, and learn and understand as you're going along. Empower yourself with knowledge so you can make the right decisions for your kids as rather than being on the back foot and sort of not understanding what you're being asked to,
I was saying earlier the other day, I kind of stood on the side of the pitch in the pouring rain with the other parents huddled together and just watching our kids run around and thoroughly enjoying themselves playing messy football. Those days have gone for me. They've certainly gone for you. But, it's trying to help people navigate this system. And so kind of what are some of the biggest questions that you're routinely asked by parents? What are the things you're hearing again and again and again for help?
Yeah, a lot of things around balancing school.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
With football, it's one of the... Yeah, I mean, listen, for me, it's not an either or. Like, education's got to come first, really. And I'm not talking about not every child is academic, but it's the effort. And I think sometimes when football is in the mix, it's like, okay, what do we focus on? It's like, no.
Yeah.
That you got to put your eggs in the education basket, right?
Yes.
At least up until GCSE, because there's 100% chance that you're going to have to take your GCSEs.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
that's something that Mr Cornock always used to say.
Well, we need to give a shout out, don't we, to Aldenham School, don't we? Just to explain to people why we
Mr Cornock again.
Well, both you and I, explain why we're having this conversation, Marcia.
So Myles went to Aldenham.
Yep.
For secondary school, and it was an incredibly supportive environment for him to be able to to be supportive with his education, but also play football.
Yeah.
But there were, and I found that he was just an amazing support system, as were the other staff for keeping Myles focused, as well as family on his education. This is not am I going to do this? No, you need to ace those.
The boys were
GCSEs.
happy there, weren't they?
They loved
and
it.
I'm saying this because our sons were at that school together and actually played on the same pitch, which
they really did.
Sounds very proud of with that. But you're right. But there was a supportive environment where education was still of paramount importance.
Yes.
And the parents were clear on that.
Yes. Although not every parent has the same feeling about it, because their experience within the football system is one that they may feel, this is a chance. Let's not rock the boat there.
Yeah.
So I said no to football, going away for day release many times because needed to focus on school.
To have that balance.
Yeah. But also enjoy, like as you said, school football is a big thing. Like, he's loved school football. Like, you got to be a part of that. And I do remember an occasion where there was a game he would have needed to play up for the academy. And the next day would have been a very important, schools match.
Yes.
That had to take priority. It's an important part of his life.
This is about balance, isn't
Yeah.
it? And it's very easy probably to end up with an imbalance because you don't know what the priorities are. As you say, you don't navigate it.
Yeah.
You're getting some amazing feedback for Number One Fan Club. Just share some of that at the moment, what people are saying and actually expressing or feeling about now having this community available to them.
Yeah, I mean, after every workshop or every event we do, again, it's all like comments like, I wish, thank you for providing this community, or other parents. I actually had an email, and it's a very sad email, probably about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And a lady wrote to us, and she said that her son had joined. I won't mention the club, but he joined a club at under 8s.
Yes.
He got released, I think about under 12, went somewhere else and got released at 16.
Right. Which is so common.
Which is so common. What's not common is that he took his own life. Wow. And it's really, honestly, it was me and the team. Actually, we were.
That's heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. But she said, I wish this platform was here for us.
Wow.
And those stories, they're not common, but they're more common perhaps than we hear about, because for some families, when things go so horribly wrong, for them they sort of take it on themselves that they didn't see the signs or the shame or we should have known, so it's difficult for them to come out and share experiences with others. So we want to prevent all of that. Look, we're not changing the world here, but if we can help families with that well-being aspect of things to bear in mind, you know, the words you might use to your kids around, you know, identity. We talk a lot about other people's perceptions. And I've had people say, oh, I bet you can retire soon, or, you know, I bet you've got the, you know, when's a Land Rover coming? Or those sorts of things are not appropriate. And we have to call that out as parents. And also saying that those things to our kids, you know, are not, no, they are not okay.
Yeah.
But society also throws things at you. Your kids are in earshot. So there is feeling that pressure that football could be something that, you know, can change your family's lives, and that's not healthy. And that's the sort of messaging that we also want to share, the damage that does when we're putting that pressure on the kids. Because then when it doesn't happen, it's like, I've let everyone down.
When we chatted earlier, I said to you there were definitely instances of parents who were viewing academy life as potentially a way out for all of them, and I understand that, but that's an enormous amount of pressure on a young kid.
Yeah.
And that was hard to watch that. And it was hard sometimes to watch it unravel when people were let go. So, you know, the story you've just told us is quite an extreme one, but that must be fuel and motivation for you to do what you're doing.
100%. You know, it really is. I mean, like the other day we met the father and son, and we were doing a workshop.
Yep.
And we sort of said to him, oh, you know, how are you enjoying it here?
Yeah.
And the 11-year-old looked at us and said, I'm not here for fun. And we looked at each other, and he looked at his dad. And he's like, yeah, we're not here to make friends. And I'm like, wow. You're 11. You're 11. I mean, when I think about, you know, my son and the friendships that he's made, and actually, you know, he's got obviously a very, very close relationship with Ethan. Like that, they were a support system for each other. You need friends.
They're a year apart, aren't they?
No.
Age-wise?
No, they're in the same school year.
Right. Oh, okay.
They're 6 months apart.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yeah. But you need friends.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of messaging that, you know, I just don't think it's healthy. Like this is supposed to be fun.
How do you help that mindset? When someone's come in, as you say, with a parent and the child who's 11, it's like, no, this is a serious business and we're not here to make friends. And you can empathise with where it might be coming from, but how do you help navigate?
I don't think you can't help everyone. I mean, same thing, the platform's not for everyone. I mean, we have run workshops where, you know, most people are very, very engaged, and once or twice, you know, a parent, and if I'm honest, a dad has got up and sort of left because it's not, you know, they don't really need to hear this. Okay, well, maybe in a few years.
You can't please everyone, can you?
You can't please everyone. And that's, you know, but what I would say is that we come from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, different educational levels, you know, economic situations. Like we're all very, very diverse culturally as well.
Which is fantastic in itself.
Which is amazing. But it does make, and also the way in which we've all been raised, very different. So that adds this whole level of complexity. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily a football challenge. It's a, you know, it's a life challenge.
It's a human challenge.
A human challenge.
Which is why we're having this conversation, right?
Yeah. So I'm not here to judge anyone around, you know, the reasons for, you know, them supporting a child in football. Everyone will have their own thing. But how we navigate it quite often, or how, it depends on where we are in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about the shouty parent on the sideline and
we've all been
the aggressive,
there.
We've all been there.
all heard it and seen it.
I've actually got a video of me doing it when Myles was about 6. It's so embarrassing.
Well, can we play that? We don't
Seriously, it's like that. I use it in my workshop. It's quite bad.
Oh, do you?
But we've all been there. But quite often when there's, you know, the aggression or the telling off or the, you know, telling your kid, you know, to track back and you're not the coach, that comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's not, do you know what I mean? There's something else going on there. Either, you know, how your family might have spoken to you, or you being maybe feeling like you want to control everything, you know, or not understanding human behaviour, and when you don't let kids make their own decisions, you know, that's not allowing them to grow and develop in this resilience and that sort of thing. So when you don't know, that I think causes the behaviour challenges that we see in football.
Marcia, you're incredibly grounded, but life at times is probably anything other than normal. So how do you balance the normality and the lack of normality that will just go with the journey that you're all on now? How do you try and stay grounded, or try and just have the normality dial switched up a little bit?
It's just look. It's a hard question because to me it's a different phase of life.
A different normal.
It's a different normal.
Yeah.
But when you've got you just. I'm a regular person.
I know you are.
Normal,
but you're a regular person, sometimes being probably taken into first-time scenarios.
Yes.
First-time experiences.
Yes, sure.
Which are, I think, just on a human level, are always deeply exciting. But you're going to be learning all the time.
100%. Yeah, I am. And I enjoy learning. But also, for the bit that's not normal, when you surround yourself with people that are smart and capable, and they have heart and they're honest, the right people, the right team around you, it helps with the not normal stuff. Definitely. But other than that, no, it was, you got a nice little village of family and friends, and it's not difficult. It's not difficult. It's not difficult.
It's the experience, isn't it? It's about what are the experiences, what is the learning, and what do you...
Yeah, not getting carried away with the hype. I think that's really important for me, and our family. Like this, yes, there's some exciting things going on.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to get back to your normal level, because you get highs and lows. You can't stay in we scored a goal today and stay like that for like a whole week. No, next day, chores to be done, work to do.
Look, exactly right.
Life.
All those things. Life gets in the way, or life brings us back to normalcy.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that a lot of leaders and CEOs have talked about. They call it's about noise to signal. They say, how do we try and make sense of a chaotic world in order to understand what our business can do? There's a lot of noise in football, whether you're at a ground. I do remember, and I'll tell you this funny experience. Sam was 7. I took him to his first football match, which was Arsenal-Aston Villa. And my wife said, so how was it? I said, well, we lost 2-0 and Sam has 2 new words, neither of which are repeatable. That was our first experience, and that was at the Emirates, right? So one of the things that I kind of wanted to ask you was how do you or the family stay away from the noise and keep everybody focused? Because the noise can be infuriating, can be toxic, can be misinformed, ill-advised, all of those things. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you navigate the noise to stay normal?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I think by noise you're talking a lot of the social media.
Social media, fans in stadiums, all of this.
We've never looked for, validation from other people. So
don't need it.
Yeah. And so when it comes to social media, I don't engage with it. I don't really care what anyone else
That's
thinks.
Good advice in itself for so many people. Just don't engage.
They don't engage. And Myles has never engaged. Like he doesn't engage in that either. So it doesn't affect. He cares what his coaches say. He cares what the environment that is supporting, and his team that's supporting, and the family.
That chosen team, that's the important feedback loop, isn't it?
Yeah, everything else, you swipe on that. It's like, so that's, That's
the way that's really the way forward, isn't it?
I think, I honestly feel, look, we talk about this in our workshops, that we have to bring back those controls. The word control is probably not very good, but in this instance, it's important. Yeah. Around what our kids are consuming. And I, certainly when Myles was sort of 14, 15, he never wanted an Instagram account. But, as football goes, at some point that was going to happen. Yeah. But I was always on there. I was always like, I have access to the DMs and stuff like that. So you've got to be able to watch what's coming in and be the eyes and ears of your children, because they don't know this. You don't know the environment. They don't know the environment.
Well, you're the buffer, aren't you? In some ways, you're triaging. You have to triage some of this stuff.
But I think all too young, parents are allowing their kids the freedom to just access anything. Yeah. And I just think it's dangerous. And especially in football, I just
It can be extreme.
It can
I
be
think
extreme.
there is extreme examples of it. I think
Yes.
that's everyone's got an opinion. We know
Yeah,
that when it
yeah,
comes
right?
to the whole world's got an opinion when it comes
Yeah.
to football. Kind of what advice would you offer parents whose children are entering the football world? And that doesn't mean at the very top end, but kind of what advice do you generally find yourself giving parents who are saying, "Oh, my son or my daughter again, maybe there's something going on, or there's some interest being shown." Early stages.
Yes. Do you know what? It has to be, just allow your child to lead this themselves. Like if you're going to have to wake your child up, every day to go to training, they probably don't really, they're probably
and it
not
does
that
happen.
bothered. Do you know, let them drive the journey themselves, right? Be there to support, to navigate, to facilitate, but it's got to be driven by them. If they're going to stay and progress and enjoy the development process, it's a long journey. And I think as a parent, if you get over involved too soon,
might as well enjoy the journey, right?
Yeah, it can be exhausting. So, just it sounds so cliche, enjoy it, but let your kid just get on with it. If they're going to, I always just say, if Myles is going to be good, it's going to be good. Like, I've got nothing to do with that. As long
Trust
as
the
I
process.
Trust the process.
Right.
If I can get him there, that's a bonus. That's on me.
Yeah.
But also, I've never seen it, or our family have never seen it as a sacrifice. Like, we've had to choose to support you. Yes, it's difficult, and there are things which have had to change in order for him to, carry on.
Yeah.
But we've had to. It was a choice. We could have said, well, actually, no, let's
It's about those choices all the way through the
All the way
journey, which is what you're helping parents navigate, right?
Yes.
Because it's not just one big decision at one time. There's probably lots of micro decisions that have to happen,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, look, when you go to an academy, the timing of the sessions, not everyone can get off work at 4:30 to get your child there at 5. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're going to get in it, you need to understand the landscape and what does that mean? The commitment, because otherwise you're going to put so much more pressure on yourself, on your family, on your other siblings.
Yeah.
And I think that's the information sharing that we want the platform to be able to do, especially in the grassroots area.
Right.
Because when you're stressed and you're pressured about normal everyday life because you can't get, you want your kids to succeed in football, there's always a way. Yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat. It's not all about the academy system. There are other routes to continue playing and enjoying and, get to good levels. And we don't hear enough stories actually around, kids that have gone on to either, play at non-league and get paid for it. Go up the levels in a different way. County, go to college, go overseas.
Sam just went to America.
There you go.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
To play,
Well, what a wonderful experience, or an experience. Either way, there are so many other ways to enjoy football. And I think we only ever see Premier League, Champions League. It's more than that,
Well, I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing, not just from personal reflection, but there's a very real need, and you're getting the 100%. Feedback for that. With everything that's going on, what's kind of the standout leadership lesson for you, personally, that you sit with at the moment? Say, I've really learned something about myself in this personal journey for you.
Yeah, do you know that's a great question, because a few years ago I had a life coach, a business coach.
Okay.
And I was at the very beginning of these ideas, and she was an incredible mentor for me to just get going. And there was always a bit of I was always quite reserved about it, because I don't know football. Like, how's anyone going to listen to me? I'm just a parent. And she gave me so much confidence to just trust. What you're talking about. You're living it and you're breathing it.
You're living it.
You're living it and breathing it. Absolutely. But I think that was just to be bold and be in those rooms.
Yes.
Like, so on this journey of football, I'm a minority in so many ways.
Right.
And having the parent voice, having the female voice as a black woman as well, in this industry is still very rare.
Right.
But my leadership is actually, no, you deserve a seat at the table,
Yes.
I support Myles in all aspects of his business and where he's going. And I've earned my stripes, so own it.
Well, as Myles' journey continues, so will yours, and so will your learning, and so will your ability now to support so many other people navigating, let's be honest, what is still a bit of a minefield out there. Let me ask you just a few kind of quick fire questions, if I may. So what's been the most memorable moment?
Scoring.
Come on.
I'm not even going to lie. It's not the England goal because I missed that because I couldn't see the pitch very well. It was.
you heard it. You missed it, did you? Okay.
I did miss
What was the most memorable?
It's Myles' first goal, in the Premier League.
Yeah.
That was the Man City game.
Oh,
that was amazing.
That was an amazing goal, right?
Yeah.
There's a wonderful clip of you. Just explain the context of that clip.
So I had gone into the city to create some content with some business leaders.
Yes.
And I was just walking back to the tube station, and a gentleman stopped me and said, "Oh, it's from Dose of Society, I think, is the platform."
Yeah.
And he was asking me questions about life. It's a wonderful platform. And I was answering the questions. And at the end, he said, tell me one thing that somebody wouldn't know about you. And I was like, oh, my son's about to play, against Man City on Sunday. And he's like, wow, who's your son? I said, oh, Myles Lewis-Skelly. And then he's like, what? And he's a big Arsenal fan. So then it went on and on and on. And and that's how that came. But it was totally random.
Yeah.
But I love talking to people in the street, so it was great.
Well, there's another reason, isn't there? Aren't you in the stadium where Myles comes, gets subbed on?
Yes.
Was that his first appearance?
No, that was his.
You were super excited at that one.
No, it was his first.
I think it was his.
Oh my gosh, there's been so many.
I'm sure we've seen the clip where you were in the crowd and they made a substitution. They called his name and you went, hang on.
And I think because they bought Saka off.
Right.
And again, my vision's not great.
We were
up in the gods.
You were very high up.
We were very high up. And they bought.
Oh, hang on.
That's
we may have it.
Yes.
This
is
one
the
excited mama.
He's not coming on. I was like,
here we go. We love it. See, look, you're up in the gods
League,
there,
yeah,
aren't
yeah. We were very much having.
See, this is amazing because this is what this podcast is all about: is the human being over the human. Can you even describe? Can you even describe how you felt then?
Yeah, just really proud. I mean, so proud, but I don't. That word pride is weird for me because actually, when I talk about pride, it's more about how Myles is managing and dealing with the environment around that. I'm proud,
which is, by the way, is incredible in itself.
Yeah,
a lot of people have said to me, how is an 18-year-old navigating this, the pressure, just the intensity, Champions League semi-finals? Where's he getting that from? That strength, that resolve at such a young age?
Because he enjoys the game. Like, it's all been about enjoyment, and that's what I'm saying. It's that's it. If you just enjoy, he often says, "I doesn't feel like I'm going to work." Like, he loves the challenge. He enjoys the challenge.
Yeah.
So if you can keep enjoying it, then everything else around you is.
What does success really look like for the modern day footballer? Do you think is it based on that? Just enjoy the journey. I mean, I'd have to ask Myles that question. For him, I know that's what he would say. Yeah. Yeah. And so my final question is, you are and you're going to continue to make a massive impact. I hope so. Which is fantastic. What do you want your legacy to be, Marcia? Listen, if I could just help one family come out of this and think, you know what, irrespective of, how the football element went, we helped set our son or daughter up for success in life. Yes. Because they didn't focus solely on the end goal, right? They took those skills of being in the environment, whether it's grassroots or again, and applied it to other parts of their life. So it was an enriching experience. That's what I want. I want all parents and their families to have enriching experiences in football, irrespective of the final outcome. Well, I've loved this conversation, and I think anyone watching and listening will be able to pull out so many nuggets in relation to their own personal leadership and how they work with the family and the people that they lead, which are their extended family, and how everyone goes out into the world and hopefully is a force for good and enjoys the journey, because sometimes the destination is a little different to one that was anticipated, right? Marcia, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and maybe it's just been a little different because it's really been about focusing on, as I say, the human being versus the human doing. And I just want to say a huge thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me, Adam. Enjoyed it very much.
Pleasure.
You.
Join us again next week for more curiosity and insight with the Leadership Enigma. We'd love to hear your comments on today's show, as well as suggestions for future topics and guests. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn or visit us at www.leadersenigma.com. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on all your major podcast platforms and on our dedicated YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining the community.